Hey, y'all, welcome to CrossPolitic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. We're at AmFest 2025. It's good to be with you. We got Knox, Waterboy, Pastor Toby, and we got our good friend Kevin Freeman from I'm really Blaze TV and all other sorts of content that you're producing and everything. What's
Is it the economic war room?
Economic War Room. Or Pirate Money Radio on American Family Radio.
Yes. I know there's a number of names. That's why I didn't start there.
Yeah.
I can't remember them all. But you've been kind of in this economic, your show is Economic War Room. You've been in kind of this economic battle in America for, 20 years? I know you kind of went through this. You were this secret guy for a while. You weren't allowed to talk about it.
I was not allowed. That's correct.
All that stuff. And
for the CIA? Is that what it was?
I actually did work with people in the DIA, the CIA, the FBI.
DEI.
No, I didn't work. I don't do DEI.
You do all the other three, though.
And no ESG. I'm against both.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we've had you on the show over the years a number of times, but I got really interested in gold as right now is classified and categorized as a commodity and not right now as an exchange coin, or what was the terminology you just used a second ago?
Currency?
Currency, yeah. Not as a currency. Gold's been a commodity, not a currency, but you've been working on a number of states trying to turn gold into an actual currency in that state. Oklahoma, I think Florida, I think a little bit of Idaho.
The wins we've had, first was Utah, vetoed by Governor Spencer Cox. Second was Arkansas, signed into law by Governor Sarah Sanders. And then Ron DeSantis in Florida signed into law. Then Governor Landry in Louisiana, Governor Abbott in Texas, and Governor Kehoe in Missouri. So we have 5 states signed into law.
Where gold is actually a currency.
It is legal tender. You can use it as money. We're writing the rules now. You pass the law, then you got to go to the regulators and get the rules written. But we're in that process now. Sometime in 2026, people in those states will be spending gold and silver as money as legal tender.
So what does that do?
Yeah.
What does that do now that it's currency? What changes?
Well, a number of things change. First off, you got to understand the history of this. We lost gold as money starting in 1933 when gold was confiscated by FDR.
Yep.
And then in 1971 when Nixon took us off the gold standard. And then what happened is the IRS said, what do we do with gold? If people can own gold again starting in 1973, what do we classify it as? It's not money because money is Federal Reserve notes. So what do they called it either a commodity or a collectible, and it has the highest capital gains tax rate because of that. No long-term holdings, no benefits, you pay a capital gain. So if you bought gold at, 2 years ago or 3 years ago at $2,000 an ounce, it's now $4,300 an ounce. You go to spend it, sell it, or whatever, the IRS will come knocking at your door and say, hey, you owe a big capital gains tax. But if it's legal tender and it's money and it's useful as functional as currency, it should not be subject to capital gains under IRS code, under U.S. law. It should not be. So we're working with the president to get him to write an executive order that says it will not be.
So, which means, put this in practical terms, you buy a $40,000 car with gold. Let's say you take out the gold, you buy a $40,000 car. How much are you paying on that capital gains also on that $40,000 you took out?
Well, it depends. If you bought it 2 years ago or more, you're paying half of it. Half of that $40,000 would be a capital gain. Then you owe 28% on that. So $20,000 times 28%, you owe $5,600 in tax just for the purpose of using your money. Under this law, you would not have to do that.
On the car.
Not including the tax you pay on the car, or the tax that the car manufacturers paid, or the employees of the car manufacturer. There's taxes everywhere. This takes one of those away and allows you to use gold and silver as money. When we have $38.5 trillion in debt, the value of your dollar is going to go down every year. That's called inflation.
So let me ask the question this way, because we have a gold partner that has its
Alps Precious Metal.
Yep, Alps Precious Metal, and their warehouse, for lack of better words, is in Texas where they store the gold.
Yeah.
Would that mean the gold that I have in Texas and invested in, even though I live in Idaho, would not be subject to capital gains?
Okay, Alps is going to love me.
Okay.
All the gold dealers love me when I tell them this. The executive order that we're proposing to the president has a 1031 exchange.
Yep.
A lot of people will say, under the system we created in Texas, Florida, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Missouri, you have to have your gold on deposit at a state-approved depository. They'll regulate it. They'll look at it, make sure the gold's real, make sure it's a certain purity and all that, so you can have a legitimate exchange through electronic means. Taking a debit card, I've got my gold on deposit in a depository. The state recognizes it. They see it's real gold. It's there.
Yep.
And I go and I transfer it with a debit card from me to you. I buy my nice CrossPolitic shirts from you.
Yes.
I pay in gold.
All of them.
Then that's a legitimate transaction. The state's doing what the state ought to do, which is allowing free commerce and making certain I'm not cheating you and you're not
legitimate. Yeah.
It's legitimate. You're not cheating me. I'm not cheating you. That's a legitimate state function, right? Your gold dealers are going to love, because you want to hold a bunch of that gold physically in your house. You're going to store it in your safe, maybe in a shoebox under your bed. You want that gold in your possession. But when you want to sell it, you're going to want to put it into our system so that it can be spent like money, and you don't have to pay a capital gains tax when you transfer it from your holding to the state-approved facility holding. So a lot of people are going to buy gold from Alpine, keep it in their house, and then when they need it, when they want to spend it, and they may not want to spend it ever, they may hold on to it forever.
Yeah.
But when they have a need, I got to buy a new car, I didn't expect new tires, I didn't expect my kid to have this problem, they'll be able to transfer it into the system and not have to pay the capital gains tax because they're using that gold and silver as money.
So you came in and you handed us these cards. Saving Civilization Action Network. What is this?
Okay, Saving Civilization Action Network
Like
is
an end times thing, isn't it?
it may be end times for America. I have no idea from an eschatological perspective. I have no idea if Jesus is coming tomorrow or 10,000 years from now, or how that. I'm not making a prediction, but I'm telling you this: we're on a path to destruction in the United States of America. It's a destruction of our own making, but also the four enemies. So I call them, in my next book, it's titled The Four Horsemen of the American Apocalypse and Our Six Trials by Fire. And you'll notice the horses are different color. They're similar in concept and idea. And by the way, you look at the actual four horsemen in Revelation, and there's an inflation aspect to it. There's a death and a conquering aspect to it. There's similarities there. But these four horsemen are Communist China, which is number one, which has infiltrated even the Federal Reserve. We found they steal our intellectual property. They're buying up our property. You go to, I think it's University of Michigan, where there were Chinese students that were carrying in bioweapons into the university. China has targeted the United States, and I've done the work for the Pentagon on this economically and across the board. So Communist China, that's the red horse. The green horse is political Islam. These are the guys that say
Political Islam.
They're going to bring a caliphate, and they're going to commit jihad to establish a caliphate under Sharia. And there's a bunch of them out there, Muslim Brotherhood and others, who really believe this and want to see this happen. They're a threat to America. And you see the terror killings that we've seen in various places that are tied to political Islam. Then the third one is the globalists, the World Economic Forum types, the George Soros types, who are secular in nature, probably atheist, demonic. They don't realize that they're serving Satan, but they're demonic. And their goal is to bring the World Economic Forum where you guys are no longer going to eat meat.
Yeah.
You're going to eat bugs.
And like it.
And you're going to own nothing and like it.
They know I'm going to like it. It's so weird. Yeah.
And then the last one are the traitors and the cowards here in America that have been selling us out. And they are, all four of them, aiming at America to take down America, because we're literally the world's strongman. I mean, there's no other way to look. You got to bind the strongman if you want to spoil the house, and the strongman in the place in between is the United States.
Can we start at the bottom with the First of all, I just want to say thank you for not having any black horsemen on here. I just want to say that.
There's no black?
No black, so we're good. But the traitors and cowards, who are the traitors and cowards that you see they're selling America out?
Well, Wall Street's a good example, where Wall Street would sell out an American company and convince an American manufacturer, oh, you ought to manufacture less expensively in China, and so let's move that manufacturing to China, and we'll invest in Chinese stocks and all that. So Wall Street and Washington, I'm going to tell you one who sold us out. 1971, when we left the gold standard, and this is how these two tie in together. All four horsemen were unleashed in 1971 when we left the gold standard. Nixon realized there's nothing to prop up the U.S. dollar anymore. So everybody knows he went to Saudi Arabia and said, we'll buy your oil in dollars. In exchange, we will use our military to defend the kingdom, and you price all oil in dollars, and you reinvest back in our treasury bonds. That was an agreement. It's called the petrodollar that we made in 1973. It was Henry Kissinger, it was Bill Simon that went over and negotiated that. What that also unleashed was a very strict Islamic group in Saudi Arabia that invested in America, built a lot of mosques and so forth, Wahhabists and Salafists that entered the United States with that money. It unleashed a lot of money that supported a growth that we've seen there. That was unleashed. But what most people don't realize that in 1972, Nixon went to China, not solely to blunt the Soviet Union. That's what we've been taught in the history books. Oh, he went to China and the Soviet Union's building up against us militarily, and so we'll use China against Russia. No, he also went there to say, we will invest in your factories, make you a most favored nation. You'll use your cheap labor. We will take capital and invest it there. You will take human capital and manufacture at lower wages and lower prices. We'll ship cheap goods back to America, which will blunt our inflation problem. And then you promise for 40 years that you will invest in the United States Treasury bonds. And they were the largest owner of U.S. Treasury bonds. In 2013, they owned over 10% of our total debt. You know, they own about 2% of our total debt today. They, in 2013, the deal was up. We don't have to continue to buy American bonds, and they've been reducing their bond holdings ever since. So he unleashed the Chinese threat in 1971. And the globalist threats also, Klaus Schwab was running the European Management Forum, not the World Economic Forum. It was literally a chamber of commerce in Europe. And he decided, we're leaving the gold standard. Absolutely, we can profit from this, or we can control the world. He turned it in the World Economic Forum, recruited all the billionaires, and brought them in. So all those first three were unleashed by Nixon leaving the gold standard. Because we left the gold standard, he had to shore up the money, which is Luke 16:11. Unless you're faithful with your unrighteous mammon, no one will trust you with true riches.
You sound like a Fed to me.
How did you get that?
How do you know all this inside stuff? How are you tracking all this?
Well, I did work as a consultant to the Department of Defense for a couple of years, and I began to study it. But I also grew up, my dad was a constitutionalist. He loved the Constitution. He taught in Baptist churches in Oklahoma, but he was teaching, you may have seen like the 5,000-Year Leap and the Naked Communists and all that, written by Leon Skousen. My dad was buddies with those guys. He carried a lot of that into Oklahoma, and so I got drug everywhere I went. I had to study the Constitution.
Now, Kevin, on this list, I don't see Israel and the Jews.
Or Qatar.
Well, you see civilization, right? They're part of civilization, right?
They are.
I do want to get to radical Islam, because I can see it's from what you're talking about with the gold standard. It kind of deals with kind of those other three horsemen. But does economic realities have any effect on dealing with political Islam as well? Or what's the answer to that? Because I think the answer was like, hey, if you get back your money, you can deal with the three of these horsemen. Is that right?
Yeah, but it also deals with the threat that radical Islam brings. When Osama bin Laden had the planes flown into the World Trade Center, he said it was an economic war. The goal was death to America by 1,000 cuts. We will spend $100,000, and they'll come back with $5 trillion of spending to offset our $100,000.
I see.
But you also see a group of the Muslim Brotherhood, Yusuf al-Qaradawi, in 2008 said, we're going to break down the American capitalist system and show that Islamic finance is superior. You also see them calling for dump U.S. Treasury bonds and start buying gold. And so all of this is happening around the world. If we do what I shared earlier, and President Trump signs that executive order, money, gold from around the world will flood into the United States. It will defund a lot of our enemies almost instantaneously, because where would you rather have your gold? I'd like it in my home state of Texas. Let's stick it under the Alamo and put Chuck Norris in guard.
Amen.
Winning.
So then, right now that it seems like as you're watching the Trump administration and how they're operating with big tech, we're investing as a country into these companies now instead of actually like the chip deal. We say, okay, we'll build out a facility for you, but now we're becoming shareholders. That can't be good to help these four horsemen disappear.
No, in the long run, I do not believe the government has a role to take the public money and create an investment pool out of it. I know President Trump has endorsed that and he likes that. And there's some potential benefits, and I don't want to say it's bad in every case, but maybe it's bad in every case.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea somebody sticks a gun in my face and says, give me money, and then we're going to take your money and do this. I don't think that's the intention of the founders for the federal government. I think the government is to make sure we have a level playing field, to make sure that if we're doing gold transactions, I'm not cheating you. And if I am cheating you, that you have a recourse against me, that the government helps you there's a fraud committed, and they help you bring that case. So I don't like the idea of the government picking winners and losers in the economy. It never works. It was very poor in the Obama administration when they were funding all of the green energy companies. And when the government sticks in and says, hey, Ford Motor, we're going to give you all these breaks so you produce electric cars, they end up losing money. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for the future. It's not the American way.
A minute ago when we were talking, you mentioned you weren't quite as critical of tariffs as we might think.
Yep.
Why are you not as critical on
Why are you a commie on tariffs?
Trump's tariffs?
Because they're constitutional and they're allowed. And because they were how we funded our country for the first, up until 1913 with the income tax. And because they're a blunt foreign instrument. We have a tariff structure. It's a reality around the world. And we were getting ripped off on tariffs. Other countries were charging higher tariffs than we were. And so you've got to have the ability to be a bully and to fight back. And so use it as a blunt foreign policy instrument. Rod Martin, by the way, is the one I read that helped me understand why this wasn't bad policy. So shout out to Rod Martin for his brilliant.
But are tariffs, so even if you say they're allowed constitutionally and historically they were used, which is incontrovertible, is it good economics?
It is if other nations are using tariffs. I mean, you don't have a choice at this point. You're going to charge me. You bring a knife, I bring a gun, right? At some point, we have to be able to push back. The largest consumer of goods and services on planet Earth is the United States. The largest consumer of goods and services in the United States is the United States government. These are realities we have to deal with. Ideally, you would have free trade across the board around the world, but people would have to be fair about it.
Explain real quickly. But I understand a tariff, even though it's a tax on imports, I'm going to end up paying that. So if I want to buy, the DVD player from China, and there's a tariff on that, I end up paying that because, whoever bought it, whoever imported it from China has got to recoup that cost. And so if there's a bigger price tag on that DVD player that I bought from China, don't the United States, aren't we the ones paying that ultimately?
Well, actually, since the tariffs have been put in place, it's not shown up like that exactly. And the reason...
But that's short-term economics. Long-term economics, you always end up paying the tax.
Well, all right. So let's say China is producing... We have a thriving DVD industry here in the United States.
Cassette tapes.
And China decides that we're going to create and dump enormous amounts of DVD players below cost to drive you out of business. And when we do that, we'll take over and control the market. Well, all right. What about rare earth minerals? What if we're going to ruin we're going to do economic warfare? We have a thriving rare earth mineral creation here. We're mining them, refining them, and so forth. We need them for the future economy. We're doing that. And China comes in and says, we're just going to cut the cost so much, offer them, dump them till your industry collapses. And by the way, we're going to fund the environmental groups to make sure you never mine them or refine them again. And we're going to buy up politicians. How do you deal with that?
Remove the regulations for the people that are here so they can operate freely and compete.
You can, and you still wouldn't solve the economic problem because they're offering them here at 10 cents on the dollar for price until they run it out.
Why can't we run the same game on them the opposite way?
Because we can't produce it at the labor cost that they...
Well, that's because we have regulation that stops us from being able to be creative in our free markets. Doesn't free
No, it's
market
because
win?
We aren't communists.
Yeah.
Well, do
That's
you
why.
expect communism to win in a
See,
free market?
they're
I don't
doing
think
that
so.
from if we're acting economically and they're acting in an economic warfare geopolitical fashion. You have to recognize what they're doing and you have to find a decent way to respond. Historically, under the Constitution, one of the blunt instruments you can use is tariff. And so I'm not opposed to the use of tariffs. Do we ultimately want to get to a true free market? Absolutely. And if all nations will abide by that, absolutely. But there are times when you put restrictions and regulations in for foreigners, and yes, you'll end up necessarily paying, but you'll end up paying even more if you wipe out the rare earth industry. And it's, in the long term, you wipe it out, and then you're subject to them, and there's no way to respond to it. So it is something that I give him a pass on if the goal is to get to true. We want to export freedom and not import communism.
So on the other side of this card you gave us, Economic Justice Board, what is this?
This is a proposal we've also taken to the president. We're working with people at Liberty University. We've had conversations with Heritage Foundation, America First Policy Institute, and others. It's an idea hatched in the economic war room to promote an alternative to Mamdani. So I mentioned the four horsemen of the American apocalypse, right? We started with communists, check.
Yep.
Then we said Islamist, check. Then we said globalist, check. Then we said traitor and coward, check. That's now the mayor of New York. Why? Young people feel that they have no on-ramp to the American dream. I got to be 40 years old before I can buy a house. And by the way, I got to get married, and I have to delay having kids because I want to buy a house and all this. You know, Charlie Kirk would tell you, get married young and have more kids than you can afford, right? Why don't people do that? Because they feel they've been shut out. Why have they been shut out? Because we left gold and silver as a standard for money, and the money supply has grown, and we've literally seen inflation, so that what cost me as a kid 10 cents now costs $3 in a candy bar, Hershey bar. So we need to promote affordability. How do you get that? You get sound money, you reduce regulation.
50-year mortgages.
You give up. I don't like 50-year mortgages. That's just debt enslavement where you're paying it off for 50 years instead of 30 years. No, I don't like that, but that's not true. So affordability, we've got to recognize there's a serious problem and come up with short-term solutions and long-term solutions to help with the affordability, but not 50-year mortgages. Regulation, if we just reduce regulation on building a house, you'd lower the house cost.
Just regulation alone.
Just regulation alone. I mean, if you don't
right.
mandate gas stoves, but you can get the cheapest stove, or mandate electric stoves in a gas station, you can get the cheapest stove. You drive the cost of housing down.
Wait, is that regulated, that they force electric stoves inside of houses?
It was.
Yes,
It was.
It has been. Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid. All right, and here's another thing. If you close the border, actually, you're going to have fewer people demanding housing. You're going to have cheaper housing prices, and maybe young people will have more babies, and you eliminate abortion, and guess what? You don't have to bring in so many immigrants. We're stealing from our own future and doing it by importing people.
That's right.
So those two things. What's one more thing to make things more affordable to work for for Gen Z?
Well, Charlie would say you don't necessarily have to go to college. If you want to be an engineer, I think it's a good idea. To be an engineer, you probably ought to go to college, but gender studies make absolutely no sense. So let's not. The solution to student loans is not making free college. The solution is getting people to make economic decisions before they enter college. And so that you address student loans, you address automobile prices, you address gasoline prices, you address wages, you address money. All of those things can be wrapped up in the regulations and the education.
That's really good.
All right, so that is the first thing then we have reward. People need to see, if I work harder, I mean, you go to the Pilgrims at Plymouth and you say, there's no reward if you work harder. Oh, I'm not working harder. These are good Christian men. These are the Pilgrims. Yeah. They're better in so many ways than we are today in terms of dedication. But I'm not working harder if I'm not getting a reward. We've got to have a reward society. The harder you work, the more you achieve, the more you're rewarded.
They tried that. It didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, they tried socialism.
That's right.
That Thanksgiving wasn't the first year under socialism. It was the second year under free markets.
Yeah.
That's when they had Thanksgiving.
Ooh,
that's good.
Yeah.
Then the third thing that you've got to do is you will have a wealth gap. Not as bad under free market capitalism as it is under socialism, by the way. Animal Farm teaches the pigs had everything. It's not as bad, but there's still a wealth gap because there are differences in outcomes.
Yeah.
We need equal opportunity in different outcomes, but then you see people, I have a brother in need. What does the Bible tell me to do with a brother in need? You meet that need.
Yeah.
I don't want a gun pointed. I'm not a cheerful giver on April 15th. But I am a cheerful giver at Christmas time when I see someone in need and I'm able to give to them. If we will bring Jesus Christ back into the lives of people, they'll realize that the money that they're storing up, they're not supposed to be storing up. Don't store up riches here on earth where moth and rust destroy and thieves break in and steal. You do 3 things with your money. You need to earn it, earn as much as you can, save as much as you can, or invest as much as you can, and give as much as you can. Oh, that's John Wesley. Earn as much as you can, save as much as you can, give as much as you can. When we become cheerful givers and obey the word of God, the wealth gap problem disappears because we see the need of another. And not just we'll give them money, but we'll give them opportunity.
Yeah.
We'll meet the real need.
Yeah, that's
Give
right.
everybody your website where they can check out what you're doing and watch your show.
Oh, there's
on the
so many
plays.
different websites. There's the economicjusticeboard.com. There's scanhq.com. There's piratemoneybook.com. But the main one, I guess, would be economicwarroom.com.
That's what I was thinking of.
And if you sign up for our free battle plan there, we'll send you 1 email a week that says this is what topic we're covering on the show, and you'll get a solution PDF. It's like a newsletter, free newsletter that says, here's how you fix it for your family. Here's what you do for your family, given the challenge that we have.
Sure, appreciate you, Kevin. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank
Kevin.
you. All right. God bless.
Yep.